section, we're going to discuss the increment decrement operators. We learned from the last section that the compound assignment operators allow us to shorthand certain patterns of assignment by removing the second reference to the variable, take an operator, slide in it just to the left of the assignment symbol, and doing that compound form that produces perhaps a more readable and certainly more easily typed expression. Well, certain conditions allow us to shorten that kind of expression even further, but very, very specific conditions, and that is when we're adding or subtracting the value 1. No other value is allowed to be used in this kind of operator. If we have the expression x assign x plus 1, which occurs very frequently in programming, we can shorten it using compound assignment to x plus assign 1. That's good, but we can shorten it even further because the value is exactly 1 to x plus plus. The plus plus is called increment. It means add 1. The plus plus can come after the variable name. That's called the postfix version, or it come before the variable. That's called the prefix version. Because subtracting 1 is also fairly common, we can do this again, but instead of pluses, we use minuses. So we can get x minus minus or minus minus x. It only works for value 1. There is a difference between x plus plus and plus plus x. Now, this works for decrement operator too, but once we understand it with the increment, it works the same. In the prefix form, that is plus plus x, the operation occurs first, that is the increment. Then the expression is evaluated. To this point, we haven't thought in such terms. We just evaluated an expression, a number, a value. The expression itself is broken down into a sub-expression, which is the operator, the increment or decrement operator. That complicates life a little bit. But first, let's discuss the subtle difference between the two forms, prefix and postfix. Prefix, let's assume int x initialized to 5. And if I make a statement that just says x plus plus, and then we want to print it, the result will be 6. But that does not show us what really happened. Let's do a different version of the print. Let's just keep the value 6, and let's print it again. Let's do plus plus x this time. I'm going to tell you right now, let's not mix our increment decrement operators with other things. The results are definable in the end, but not necessarily in the middle of the operation, and you can get caught. What this means is print prefix version of the increment. That means process the increment operation first. Notice it comes first. As we read left to right, the increment comes first. The increment on the value of x is 6, we increment it, goes to 7, then we evaluate the expression. So again, left to right, we see the increment and then the variable. So we increment it and then we take the value of the variable and we would print out 7. Okay, let's do it again. This time let's do x plus plus. Now notice the order is different. We see the variable first and the increment operator second. We're assuming x has the value 7. In this case, what we will do, since we see the variable first, is we evaluate the variable first, and its value is 7. That becomes the result of the entire expression. Then we increment it. Because the result of the entire expression is 7, this version would print 7. Yet if I did print just x, it would be 8. And the reason is there are two things going on. There's the evaluation of the expression and the increment. And the order in which those are done varies. The prefix version, the increment occurs first, then we evaluate. Postfix, we evaluate, then we increment. So we get two different answers based on which form we use. And this is why it's recommended never mix operations. If you're going to use the increment or decrement operators, make them stand alone. I'll give you an example. If we have a loop, we can say for int I assigned 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. Or some people have the habit of doing plus plus I. It doesn't really matter. And then we have a loop body, and we do things here. BODY. The point is, here it looks like a big confused mess of operations and operators. There are three distinct statements here. One is the initialization, one is what's called a loop continuation test, and this is the update section, but they're separated by semicolons. And those make those distinct statements. The I increment stands alone, adds 1 to the value of I, but it's executed alone, not in context of any other statement. This is a common idiom used by most programmers. It works well. It doesn't have any unnecessary side effects. I increment is executed. The value has been increased by 1, and we don't ever use the value of the expression itself, I increment or increment I. We don't use that. We only use it for its side effects, that is, that the value increases by 1.